Greetings. This is Justin Allen with the Elite Nurse Practitioner. Welcome to the Elite Nurse Practitioner Show, podcast dedicated to nurse practitioner entrepreneurism and achieving financial freedom, where I talk directly with nurse practitioners who need help. Listen up, our market is saturated. Jobs can be scarce. We are underpaid. We are undervalued. We are taken advantage of by the sharks within the healthcare system, and frankly, screw that. I'm sick of it, and it's time for a change. And listen, I'm here to help make that happen. We are powerful. We can forge a path where we are in control of our career and ultimately our financial and personal well-being. You do not need to submit to healthcare administrators and your doctor overlords. You do not have to take a measly salary. You do not have to work 50 to 60 hours a week. There is a different way, and I'm here to show you that path. This podcast is raw and unfiltered. I have not talked to the nurse practitioners in this podcast prior to the call outside of an email exchange to schedule the episode. What you're about to listen to is a consultation session between a nurse practitioner and myself. It is real, it is unscripted, it is unplanned, and I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Anything and everything can happen during our conversation. The nurse practitioners in these episodes are struggling with an issue in their professional or financial life, and they have reached out to me for help. My goal is to help the nurse practitioner with actionable advice that will enhance and improve their professional, business, and financial life. My other goal is to hopefully help my nurse practitioner sisters and brothers build a more productive, powerful, and free life. So I hope the content and information within these podcast episodes does just that. All right, onto the episode. Hello, everyone. Today, we are talking to Veronica, who is an adult nurse practitioner that practices in Maryland. She's been operating a mobile Medicare primary care practice since 2016 and is looking to diversify. She is needing assistance with being more efficient with charting and integrating some cash services into her practice to increase her practice's revenue, hire an additional NP, and ultimately build a passive income stream. Hey, Veronica, thanks for joining me on this call. How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Can't complain. So let's jump right into this. So I want you to introduce yourself. So, tell me a little bit about your background as a nurse practitioner, experience as an RN, what you've been doing, for the past few years. Bring us up to speed with where you are at in your life.
Oh, okay. Well, I've been a nurse for over 30 years. Starting out as an LPN. I was an RN, got my RN in 2002 and my NP in 2003. How did I do it so fast? They gave me the brochure and told me these are how I had to take the classes, and I did it in 3 semesters. Since then, I've worked in long-term care. I've also worked in hospital setting, done a lot of teaching, got frustrated with long-term care, and took the step out back in 2016 to start my own mobile services.
Okay. And how has this mobile practice that you started, how is it doing? What are you doing exactly?
I go out and see homebound patients that can't get out to see a provider in the office, usually older clientele, but I'm noticing that the population is becoming younger. Go out and I see those and offer primary services. It's starting to become, or it has been, MacGyver nursing since I started, because with the limited resources, but since people are starting to realize that there is a population that does not get out to the doc or to the provider, that these services are needed, so more resources are opening up.
Okay. And since 2016, I guess you've been doing this for 5 years now. What are your practices, revenue, expenses, those sorts of things? What does it look like financially for you right now?
Financially, with taking on the brick and mortar, I'm putting out a lot more money to keep the brick and mortar. So I need to make a decision on what it is that I'm going to do for a cash option. I don't want to have insurance come into the office setting. I would prefer to have a cash base for the office setting as opposed to accepting insurances.
Sure. I don't blame you there. So I guess before you started the brick and mortar component of this practice, how were the numbers looking when you were just strictly mobile? Were you making money? Were you just kind of breaking even? How did that look?
As I grew or started doing more with it, because it started out being more part-time, it's full-time now. Yes, it was making money. It was making money. It's still making money. It's just that now with a lot of the Medicare guidelines and everything, I get inundated with the documentation. And I know that I focus on making sure that my documentation is as pristine as possible. Fearful of audits. Had to do a deposition at one time, and that pretty much terrified me. me. So I know that I focus on making sure that my documentation is good, but then I look at it may be too good because you can always find some type of way to construe things that aren't meant when it's written.
So basically, it's becoming a real pain in the ass for you.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
For lack of
Okay.
better terms, yes.
So it's just a lot of busy work. Tell me about this disposition, though. I'm kind of curious about this. I mean, I think people really like to hear, these kinds of stories. I mean, it's unfortunate that it happened for you, but can you maybe just sum that up for us? Like, what exactly happened?
Patient in the hospital was discharged and killed a family member. And what happened in the hospital, patient was never seen by the psychiatrist. I was working on a psych floor. And I'm so glad that I am very paranoid with my documentation, because when I got notice of what was going on or who the patient was, they said that they had been trying to find me for about 6 months. I'm kind of not hard to miss, so I don't think they were really looking the way they said they were. I think it was just for shock value to have police come to my house and have me served. But needless to say, went and did the deposition, had all of my documentation in place. Thank God that I did document the way that I did, was with prejudice. So nothing against me or my malpractice, but that just heightened my anxiety with making sure that I document completely as I possibly can, making sure you don't turn in billing claims before you have your documentation, because you can forget a lot of things that you have.
I say that was pretty scary.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So basically, now that I guess that you're, somewhat paranoid, I probably think all of us would be. So do you find yourself overcharting a little bit now?
Oh, I find myself overcharting a whole lot. And even before, I pretty much have recently just stopped myself from pretty much writing paragraphs on my patient's visit. And I'm like, okay, you have to stop and you have to look at what is it that you just give them meat and potatoes of what you're here for. You're here for hypertension, high blood pressure's running, give them a range, patient taking the medicine. I have to go through and remind myself, ask the who, what, where, when, why question. Be done with it. Don't give them a dissertation. So just focusing on that and working on that. Also, I do have an EMR that I am working with. Before, I am an old pen and paper girl. Don't tell nobody. So working with new electronic things and forcing myself to do things electronically, I struggle with that. So going back in, since I'm in quarantine with my husband, forcing myself to learn this EMR inside and out. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. So then, in terms of the charting goes, you're learning how to stay focused, right? Focus on the complaint at hand, focus on the point of the visit at hand, right? So you're trying not to go down certain rabbit holes.
Right. Because I can tend to go down the rabbit hole, and then you'll have a whole book on our visit while we were there. I'll have 3 hours of documentation for a 1 hour visit. So
yeah, that's ridiculous.
So that's what I'm struggling with. And I'm learning, go back to who, what, where, when, why, and be done with it.
Correct. Yeah, you have to stay extremely focused here. Sure, you were, thrown into a situation where there was a disposition, all this kind of stuff. Your charting basically saved your ass. That was a hospital setting, though, and typically patients are in a far more acute state, a far more critical kind of state. And so now you're doing, home-based primary care. So you have to ask yourself, what type of liability do you have here compared to what kind of liability you had in the hospital? When you're in a hospital setting, your liability is going to be very, very high, compared to doing some primary care. So, for example, when I used to work in the emergency department as a nurse practitioner, I charged to cover my ass, a lot of CYA. But like in the urgent care, when someone comes in for, a sore throat or an ear infection, what kind of liability do I really have here? Right. So you got to ask yourself the question, what's the liability? What's the worst case scenario that could happen at this visit? And be realistic about it. Don't go down some paranoid fantasy. So you have to be very, very realistic here. And you only want to ask the questions you want the answers to. Don't ask questions you don't want the answers to. I've seen nurse practitioners who just keep asking questions. It's like, this guy comes in for an ankle sprain, and by the end of the visit, he has the medical assistants flushing out their ears and all this crazy stuff. Like, what are you doing? Why? Right? So don't ask questions you don't want answers to. Stay extremely focused when you're charting here. And then ask yourself, liability questions. What is my liability associated with this visit in particular? So hypertension, for example. How much do you really have to document here for just a basic hypertension medication refill visit, right?
Right. And I have a transitional housing client that asked me to come in and see his patients their transition. They could either be homeless, post-incarceration, or substance abuse. They wanted to know, could I do some TB screening? I'm like, okay, yeah, we can do that. But now I'm noticing that he wants more. So with that being said, I'm like, we're going to just stick with the TB screening for them. Then let me develop something and come back to you to answer that. Because like you said, I want to make sure my liability, what is my liability with that? For example, had somebody who was incarcerated for 17 years and then comes out a week ago and they wanted to know about glasses and everything else under the sun. I'm like, you're here for a TB screening. So just making sure that I stay focused.
Absolutely. Don't go down those rabbit holes. I mean, sometimes you just have to learn how to say no. I mean, I think that's very, very hard for nurses in general, especially someone who's been doing it for, 30 years like yourself. I mean, it's hard to say no, but, as a business owner, first and foremost, you have to learn how to say no. Sometimes saying no is better than saying yes to certain opportunities. And so, even with talking with patients, you have to just say, no, sorry, I'm here just for the TB test. We can't address that at a later time, or you need to follow with, a primary care provider or whatever. You just have to say no. And you kind of sound like a dickhead sometimes when you're doing that, but you got to look out for yourself too. You can't be everything for everyone.
Right, because he started asking about, do you think you can do methadone and Suboxone? I'm like, nope, that's not my forte. Nope.
Hell no.
I can focus with you on primary care. You already have someone that you said you have in the trenches that can deal with the methadone and the Suboxone. I'm not certified for it and I'm not interested in that.
Yeah, those are red flags. I mean, they're asking that right at the get-go. Oh, God, no. I wouldn't even take that patient on. Absolutely not.
No, I'll deal with you for primary care, but the methadone and Suboxone, no, sir, that's not my forte. It's saying I'm not interested.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So in terms of the charting, I think that's just what you have to, I think you have to just rewire your mindset with that. I think you just have to stay extremely focused. And when you find yourself going down those rabbit holes, you're going to have to just put a mental block in your mind just to say, Veronica, stop. This is not necessary. This isn't relevant to the complaint. This isn't relevant to the visit, and just stop, Yeah, I think that's what you're going to have to do. And then in terms of, increasing your efficiency with your speed, there's macros and templates and stuff that you can utilize within an EMR that are huge time savers.
Doing the macros, it's harder now setting all of this stuff up, but in the long run, it's beneficial because then I can click and go.
Absolutely. So anytime that I've worked at multiple different urgent cares, multiple different ERs throughout my career as a nurse practitioner. And the first thing that I would do is before I even started my first shift, I would go to that location and sit in front of that computer and literally spend 4 to 6 hours creating templates for every single complaint imaginable. I have probably 30 templates at the urgent care I work for. Everything from sore throat with exudate to sore throat without exudate, ankle sprains. I mean, everything you could possibly imagine. And so you need to do a similar thing. You're going to have to just sit down one day for 6 to 8 hours and just hammer out some templates. Then that way you can just click a button and it pre-populates the note for you. And then you get in there and, input some patient-specific things into it, and then you're done. Like, it'll literally save you so much time. That's going to be a huge priority you need to do.
Right. Because I'm going to tell you where I get caught up with. Where I get caught up and run down the rabbit hole is the HPI. HPI I can run all the way down the rabbit hole with. I mean, I could have a dissertation for you for the HPI. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I'm just starting to learn to, sometimes you don't have to write a sentence. Write a phrase. It's okay to write a phrase.
So, in NP school, they taught us that whole old carts.
Yep.
Did they teach you that?
Yep.
Yeah. Seriously, follow old carts for the HPI. If you do that, your HPI should only be 5 sentences, 6 sentences, and that's it.
Okay.
Like, I still follow old carts for when I'm typing out an HPI. I still do to this day. Everything from an urgent care visit, ER visit, or even a men's health visit. Old carts. Very, very simple. Let's say for hypertension, for example, patient presents with a hypertension follow-up for his refill on amlodipine. Patient states that blood pressure has been well controlled. Patient has no other complaints. Here for a refill. Like, I mean, what else can you possibly document for a hypertensive follow-up visit? I mean, with old carts, that's more for like an acute kind of a visit, with asking for duration, aggravating effects, alleviating effects. So that doesn't really apply to some things like hypertension, for example. You know what I mean? but you can still follow that model for most complaints, and your HPI should be really, really quick. You just got to rewire your brain.
Right. And going in and being more home health and long-term care setting, when I go in, I'm looking at the environment and everything else. I'm looking at all the other social factors that's affecting this patient. So I think more or less in my HPI, I want to give a picture so that everybody can follow, but I need to learn. And yes, after 30 years, yes, I need to learn how to make the picture pristine and short and sweet.
Right.
I think that's the best way to say it for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just short and sweet, a little separate HPI for each complaint, just a few sentences, knock it out and be done with it. You need to also ask yourself too, who's going to be actually reading this note? Will anyone ever be reading this note outside of me?
Oh, and that's what I get caught up with. I mean, they drilled it so much in our head when we were in school. Your chart to get pulled for an audit. I think since I've been an MP since '03, I've had Medicare request one chart. One
chart in 18 years. One chart. And how much time have you spent making sure your charts are perfect for one audit? I mean, how much time do you think that you have wasted on charts that people never read? No one ever reads this stuff. Very few people ever do, right?
You're absolutely right with that. But I mean, it's been drilled into our, been drilled into me that, make sure that your documentation is correct. And then, when I came into nursing, we were still wearing hats. So, right. They dug into us with making sure we document everything. So trying to unlearn this behavior after 30 years, it's tough, but I needed to hear this. Going back to the basics, bone basics, and be done with it. That really helps me.
Just go to the basics, ask yourself, what's your liability with this visit? What questions are relevant and what answers do I not want from the questions I'm asking? And who the hell's ever going to even look at this note? When someone comes into the urgent care for a sinus infection, who the hell's ever going to audit that? They came in for a sinus infection left with a Z-Pack. That was it. Who's going to read that note? No one's ever going to read that note. You know what I mean? So there's basically two trains of thought amongst providers, those that document, and those that are straight to the point. Sometimes less is more. And I've talked with lawyers before. Some are on the train of thought, document. Others are on the page of sometimes less is more, straight to the point. Don't ask the questions you don't want the answers to.
Right.
So there's plus and minuses to both sides. Personally, I think from an efficiency standpoint, it's better to maybe just be straight to the point. Don't ask questions you don't want answers to. Get it done and move on. So yeah, anyways. Outside of that, do you have any other questions in terms of the charting?
No, that documentation, I pretty much that and consume myself with making sure I know with my insurances what the fee schedule is. And I'm starting to cut down or thinking about cutting down on a lot of these private insurances. They pay when they feel like it. And I'm be honest with you, excuse my French, I'm sick of the shit. I'm sick of it. I'll just do traditional Medicare and medical assistance and build more up the cash side. And that's where I'm at right now with the cash side. I have the office. The office is set up. Over the years, I have bought and purchased things. I have a small following of primary care in there, but I don't want it to be where I have to see 40 and 50 people to make ends meet a day. That's exhausting to me. I can't do that. Seeing on the homebound side, if I see 5 to 10 patients a day, I'm okay. But I want more than just to be okay.
So on that train of thought, how much do you make seeing 5 to 10 Medicare home-based patients, in a day? Like, how much do you actually walk away with?
I can walk away with, after paying everybody or paying everything, I can walk away with $500 to $600 a day.
Seeing 5 to 10 patients. So that's what you net. What's your gross before everything's said and done?
Gross each week is about $25,000 to $3,000.
Okay. So you're making about essentially $500 to $750 a day, basically. Gross. What are you netting every week?
Netting each week, I'm netting about $5 to $7.
$500 to $700 a week is what you're netting?
Right, because I haven't taken. You're asking me about after I pay my expenses, right? What do I have left?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. So okay. So you're basically paying yourself $700 a week from doing this? How many hours a week are you doing it for?
Usually about 30 to 32 hours a week.
30 to 30. You would make more money bartending.
Okay.
I mean, this is the sad state of insurance accepting healthcare. I mean, it is an absolute travesty. It really is. I mean, you are legitimately helping a lot of people. You are doing a good thing for your community. And, you bust your ass. You're hustling with the business. You're spending 32 hours a week seeing patients. God knows how many hours a week you're spending charting and stuff. And you're walking away with $700. It's a joke. Wow.
That's why I'm looking at the cash side.
Right. And that's why you're talking to me right now. So let's figure out how we're going to make you some money here. All right. I hope everyone's enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick break to thank everyone listening and also give a big thank you to all of my social media followers and email subscribers. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our email list at www.elitenp.com and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Email subscribers will receive updates on new weekly podcast episodes, multiple weekly articles we publish, new courses, and everything else related to helping you succeed. Remember, all Elite Nurse Practitioner courses are designed to help you build a niche practice, increase your financial strength, and to break free from the rat race. If I can break free and the other countless nurse practitioners can break free, then so can you. Additionally, please share this podcast with your other nurse practitioner sisters and brothers out there. The more NPs that venture out on their own, the stronger our profession will become. Now, let's get back to the episode. All right. So you have a brick and mortar office here. You want to start integrating some cash, services into it, which is a smart move. Cash is great. You don't have to, deal with all of insurance's bullshit, all their charting requirements, all this nonsense. You don't have to deal with any of it. It's the way you break free. So what services are you interested in integrating into this brick and mortar practice?
Well, I'm certified for cannabis, so I do have a small cannabis. I'm interested in weight management and possibly IV hydration.
Okay. So let's start with medical cannabis first, since you're already certified for it and you're already doing it. So medical cannabis is a great cash practice. This is probably going to piss you off, but I go do cannabis evaluations for 4 or 5 hours and walk away with $1,200. I make more in 4 or 5 hours than you do in a week, right? Because it's cash. It's simple. So with that, I know that you're in Maryland. Is it a saturated market for cannabis evaluations? Do you feel like that you could expand that service and make a little bit more money, or is there a medical cannabis clinic on every corner?
Medical cannabis clinic on every corner, but I still think that I can expand and grow.
Okay.
Because
why do you say that?
Number one, I haven't really marketed it. Because what I was offering my cannabis services for was my patients and the hospice patients. I really haven't done a lot of marketing, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
In Maryland, a lot of people who were certifying for cannabis, I'm finding out now that they're no longer doing it. I don't know why, but they're not doing it. So I am getting more calls about cannabis. People are going down the list that's offered on the website, the state website for cannabis, and like, hey, I noticed that you're certified for cannabis. There's a lot of people on here who don't certify anymore. So I don't know why they're not, but I still think there's some money to be made in doing cannabis here.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. It seems like a lot of these little cannabis clinics kind of just come and go. I think 2 things happen. I think either one, it doesn't get busy enough for them to justify it, and they get kind of just burned. They don't put enough time into it for it to really start flourishing. I didn't make much money at all for 3 months at my medical cannabis clinic at first. So, it takes a little time. That, or they're doing stupid stuff and getting in trouble. I mean, medical cannabis overall is a really, really safe niche side practice, but if you operate a medical cannabis pill mill and you're not seeing patients, you're not doing things right, you're going to get in trouble. I knew one doc, he wouldn't even see the patients. The patients would walk into the medical cannabis clinic, pay the receptionist, $150 or whatever. The receptionist would come back 5 minutes later, call their name. The cannabis evaluation form was signed and everything. They just walk out. They never even saw the doctor. Like, you do shit like that, you're going to get in trouble. If you're doing it right, there's nothing to worry about. See the patient face to face, do the evaluation, right? And I don't think that you're going to be doing any kind of shady stuff. So I'm not worried about that. But I think that's one reason why maybe, the place is closed down. So with that said, if you're getting calls and not even marketing it, there could be an opportunity there to have that as just a little small side practice, little side service line.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking more with the office, like I've said in the past, cash. When you walk through that door, I want you going in your pocket spending cash, not giving me an insurance card. I have enough frustration on the homebound side with the Medicare and all the other insurances. I have enough of that foolishness to deal with. When you walk in the office, and especially if I'm thinking about offering this on off hours, like on Saturdays and Sundays, I
Yeah.
think you should be reaching in your pocket because that's my time.
Sure.
Oh, it's my time anyway with any of it. But I just don't want to dive down the rabbit hole anymore with insurances if I don't have to. I understand that the homebound population is my bread and butter. It is covering my expenses and everything. But now I want more.
So then I think that if you could do cannabis evaluations 1 day a week, that's really all you need to do. It's not a 5 day a week practice. And
Right.
so for you to help diversify your service lines and your cash offerings here, why don't you just maybe spend one afternoon or 1 day out of the week doing cannabis evaluations solely? That's really all you need to do. You don't need to do it 5 days a week. There's just not enough cash paying patients to justify 5 days a week unless you're the first shop open in town. And so, you're in a fairly saturated area. So why don't you start with that? Why don't you start maybe doing it like on, Friday afternoons or Friday mornings or Saturday mornings or whatever for just 4 hours and start from there. And I think that you'll be able to put, a decent amount of cash into your business bank account. But with that said, I think you need to create it as a separate service line though. Like create a separate website for it.
Okay. Separate website.
Yeah. Make it look like it's a separate business. Because when people are looking for medical cannabis, if you have a primary care office or some sort of wellness practice or something, and you have cannabis evaluations as one of your services, within your website, it's hard for search engines and for people to find that. But if you have a website solely dedicated to medical cannabis, it'll be easier for people to find that. And, search engines will rank you higher. So people will just organically find you and call. Does that make sense?
I'm agreeing with you. So I'm agreeing with you with changing the website, making it a separate website, and doing more marketing, and then just focusing on 1 day a week.
Yep. Treat it as what it is. All medical cannabis is just a great little service to put some cash in your pocket, basically. That's all it is. It's not something that you're going to be able to grow and scale into this massive, $100,000 a month practice. That's not what it is. It's just a little side thing to put some cash in your pocket, basically. I mean, not, actually taking cash and put it in your pocket, but putting cash in your business bank account, right? That's what it is. So I say you just do that once a week and you'll find yourself making, an extra, couple $1,000s a month. You can't use a couple $1,000s a month, right?
Right. I certainly can. Me and my husband.
Sure. Yeah.
Also with the weight loss. I'm thinking more weight loss because I'm looking at expenses with the IV hydration. That would probably be something down the line because then that's more product that I have to go out and purchase to get it started. I'm thinking more with the weight loss, looking at starting that more towards the first part of the year because that's when people, more females, they think about losing weight from all of the COVID and Thanksgiving and holiday weight. I'm thinking about starting that up. And I think I'm going to take your advice like you did with cannabis and do the same for weight loss. Have it set up for a certain day a week and do like a different website, a different type of marketing.
So when you first get started, correct, with these service lines, dedicate just an afternoon or 1 day a week. I've mentioned this before. What you're doing is you're throwing multiple fishing lines out there into the world and you're figuring out which one bites. So this is what you're doing. So you're throwing out a weight loss fishing line out there. You're throwing out a cannabis line. You're throwing out an IV infusion line, and you're going to see what the world bites. You're going to see what the world wants. So in your little world and, your little area there in Maryland, something will take. And so it's a good idea to do that. So I think weight loss, 1 day a week, cannabis 1 day a week, and kind of see what happens. With the weight loss, I think starting in January is a good idea. New Year's resolutions and all that kind of stuff. Typically, patient volume picks up a lot in January for wellness services and wellness practices. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, we're recording this first, week and a half in December. So you got a lot of work to do here in the next few weeks.
I got some time. I'm quarantined for right now. I got some time between that and doing some telemedicine visits with patients.
Okay. So then with that said, you want to do IV infusion as well on top of it?
I want to wait on that. I want to see what I can do. I don't want to overwhelm myself. And I think with doing the cannabis and the weight loss first, And I don't know with the weight loss, something else may develop as far as I may not go into IV services. I may even take it into women's health or men's health. I'm not sure. I want to throw those two lines out first and see where we go from there, because I don't want to make myself any thinner than what I am right now.
Words of wisdom. You don't want to do too much at one time. It's like you can really only build one bridge at a time. You can't build 3 or 4. You just can't. So, I think building 2 bridges at one time is really the max that anyone can truly do and do it well. So you're building 2 bridges here, right? You're going to do the cannabis bridge and the weight loss bridge at first, see what happens. And it'll start bringing some cash into your practice. I think what might happen is that 6 months down the line, a year from now or whatever, you might find yourself making so much more money with weight loss or something that, the Medicare thing just doesn't make sense anymore.
Right. And that's why I was thinking, because I precept a lot of new grads, keeping that on board to help them with precepting. I was thinking along that lines with that. But if it becomes too much and it's not enough, bringing someone else on board or letting it go. I would like to bring somebody else on board, because I don't want to get rid of any money. I don't want to throw away any money.
No. You never want to throw away a profitable service line. You just don't. Yeah, never do that. I mean, the Medicare thing, it's profitable. You are making money doing it, but.
Right. It's time to make some more money. I'm in my 50s, so I want to, I guess I want to retire. I don't know. I never thought about retiring. I'm still in my brain, I'm still 25, but on paper, it says I'm 53.
If your goal, though, is to start putting a little bit of cash, start building up your retirement accounts, your bank accounts, and those sorts of things, if that is your goal, and maybe have some more free time in your life, then developing this passive income stream is really priority for you. So, you said you precept these NP students, giving back to the NP community, which is great. But, a passive income stream, I think that if you could teach others on how to do the Medicare home assessments or even do the weight loss and those sorts of things, you could build a really, really powerful practice where you have, maybe 1 or 2 providers working for you and, bringing in income, building the practice and that kind of thing. And that way you don't have to work, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, killing yourself. Instead you can just work 20, 25 hours a week, enjoy the fruits of your labor and that sort of thing. Is that a path that you'd want to pursue?
Oh, yes.
So you already have the Medicare business up and running. It sounds like you got it down, right? And you said that it's only getting busier, correct?
Right.
So in my opinion, what I would do is I would try to find a nurse practitioner for that service line first. It's already down. Why reinvent the wheel and hire someone when it's not necessary? You already have that wheel invented. So go ahead and get an NP in there to start seeing some patients for you. I think that if you did that, you could get a passive income stream built within 4 to 6 months, and probably a decent. You could offload that work, start bringing on more clients. You're starting to see them, and hire another NP 6 to 12 months down the line. You could have 3 NPs doing Medicare home, primary care visits for you, and you're sitting back making $3,000 or $4,000, a week in passive income. Once you get your expenses and stuff all taken care of and figure out how to, cut back on some costs, and you can then just focus on weight loss or focus on a service line that you want to do. So food for thought.
Okay.
Now the weight loss, you're going to need to build that up first before you hire someone. Never start a practice and just hire someone. Like, you got to get in there and figure out the processes, the procedures, and those sorts of things. You can't just buy a policies and procedures manual and follow it. Like, you got to figure that out. You know what I mean? You got to figure out what works for you, your style, your area, that sort of thing. So I would say build the weight loss practice up on your own over 6 to 12 months, and then maybe hire someone else in there, or just do it yourself and have other MPs do the Medicare for you.
Right. Okay. So I'm on what I'm thinking, what I have been thinking, I'm on the right path. Okay.
You could literally do that in no time whatsoever. You hire a 1099 nurse practitioner, pay them a production fee per visit or something, maybe give them like 50% of what Medicare reimburses, or 50% of collections or whatever. The other 50% covers your expenses, and then you take a little bit of a cut. you could do that. You could start there. You need to get some malpractice for them, credential them with Medicare, credential them with the insurance, and then you're ready to rock and roll. I mean, it's really not that hard.
Okay.
Anything else you would like to talk about?
No, that pretty much that lets me know I'm on the right track. I'm just slow with it. I'm slow with it, but I'm on the right track.
No, you definitely got this. I think you could build a nice little passive income stream, integrate a few cash services into your established brick and mortar practice that you have, throw 2 lines out there, do cannabis, do weight loss, keep doing the Medicare, to bring in some income for you. And yeah, I mean, 6 to 12 months from now, you could literally triple or quadruple your income easy if you really hit it hard.
I got no choice but to hit it hard.
That's right. Yeah. No one's going to give you anything in this world. You got to work your ass off for it.
They're going to give you a hard way to go. That's the only thing. There's short time to get there.
That's exactly right. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate it. I hope this has helped you, and I hope that some MPs listening to this, derive some value out of it, derived some tips, some knowledge from it. I hope it's helped you, Veronica, and hope it's helped everyone else. Do you have any final words, Veronica?
No, just for anybody that's listening, go with your gut and follow your dreams. You're not wrong. Stop doubting yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do not doubt yourself whatsoever, and always trust your gut. Absolutely. Your gut usually is right. All right. Well, Veronica, I appreciate you taking your time for this, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope everyone enjoyed that episode with Veronica. So Veronica has already been operating a somewhat successful business. Unfortunately, she is accepting Medicare and doing the whole insurance thing and only making $700 a week profit, which is just absolutely disgusting in my opinion. I mean, she is working 32 hours a week, providing a valuable service to her community, and is not being compensated well. She's being compensated very, very poorly. So she wants to expand services. She wants to expand into some cash services to start putting some more money in her pocket, basically. So I think the lesson here is that if you already have a successful practice and you're looking at the numbers and you're not making that much money, you need to step back and figure out what can you do to increase the revenue of the practice. Sometimes it's better to just close the business down. If it is not successful, if it is not profitable, and you cannot figure out a way to increase the numbers, sometimes it's better just to shut the business down and move on to the next project. In her case, I mean, she is making some money. And so sometimes it's better to just expand your services, to start integrating some other service lines into the business that'll increase your cash flow. And that's what a lot of the Elite MP courses are all about. They're there to teach you new service lines to integrate to increase your revenue. And so that's what she's going to be doing. So she's going to integrate medical cannabis and weight loss into her services to increase her cash flow. And so I think that what will happen is that she'll be able to expand her services, increase her cash flow, and then eventually build a passive income stream that will not only make her more financially independent, but it will also help give her back some time. She's spending a lot of time working, a lot of time charting right now. So I just want everyone to step away from this episode with the knowledge that sometimes it's better to integrate more services into an established profitable practice than try to increase the revenue of the established practice if it's just difficult to do. Medicare, insurance, it's difficult to increase those numbers. The only way she can increase those numbers is to really just hire another MP to start seeing people. And then the cash flow would be nothing compared to what she could generate with a weight loss practice, wellness practice, those sorts of things. So if you have a practice now and it's not generating enough revenue, step back, see if you can fix the problem to increase the cash flow through marketing or outsourcing work, or figure out where you can integrate more services to increase the revenue. I hope everyone enjoyed that episode. More to come. Thank you. Bye. Thank you for listening to the show. Quick legal disclaimer. The content of this podcast is meant for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as legal, financial, medical, regulatory, or practice-specific advice. For information pertaining to your specific legal, financial, medical, or practice-specific needs, please be sure to consult with your lawyer, CPA, medical director, and or your state's practice laws and the most up-to-date clinical guidelines. As always, do your due diligence when it comes to any information found online and in podcast. The content in this podcast is copyrighted by Galaxy Medical Southwest 2022 and cannot be duplicated, rebroadcasted, or reproduced without our written permission.